Imagine this. You're standing on the side of a busy street. People rushing, cars honking, footsteps everywhere, everyone caught up in their own little world. And then suddenly, you realize something shocking. Nobody's really paying attention to you. Nobody's tracking your every move. Nobody's keeping a record of your mistakes. Nobody's counting the times you failed. In that moment, if you're awake enough, you see something magical. If no one cares that much, maybe you don't have to live your life trying to please them. That's not apathy. That's freedom. The Stoic philosophers knew this truth thousands of years ago. Epictetus, once a slave, taught we can't control outside events, but we can always control our own mind. And Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Now pause. Doesn't that sound familiar? Because today we're all living on a different kind of busy street social media. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They've turned life into one giant stage, where everyone's performing, where everyone's chasing applause. We post, we share, we brag, as if we're putting on a show for an invisible audience. But here's the question. Does that audience even exist? Are they really watching every step you take? Are they really memorizing every mistake you make? The truth is, most people are too busy with themselves. They're worried about their jobs, their families, their private insecurities they'll never admit out loud. Sure, they might scroll past your photo, maybe tap like, but then they go right back to their own world. So why spend your whole life chasing that fragile approval? Why let your mood, your confidence, your values depend on someone else's reaction? People who won't even remember what you did yesterday. This is the moment to face the big question. Who are you living to prove yourself to? And if the answer isn't you, it's time to stop. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 9 practical lessons, not just quotes to remember. Real tools you can start using right now. Tools to break free from the eyes of the crowd, to step off the stage, to take off the mask, and to finally live a life that is authentic, free, and powerful. Remember this. You don't need approval to live. You need the courage to be yourself. That is the foundation of happiness. That is the path to peace you've been searching for all along. So let me ask you, are you ready to take this journey with me? Lesson 1. The audience doesn't exist. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt like every eye was on you? Your heart races, your palms sweat. Suddenly you're hyper-aware of every step, every gesture, every expression, and in your head the questions start. Do I look weird? Are they judging me? Did I just mess up? That feeling is real. But the truth, brutal. The audience you think is watching you doesn't exist. Psychology studies reveal something shocking. 95% of the time, people are thinking only about themselves, their problems, their fears, their unfinished goals, which means that imaginary audience in your head, the one you think is analyzing your every move, they're way too busy to even notice what color shirt you're wearing today. So why let an audience that doesn't exist control the reality of your life? Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, a Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." Think about that. He ruled millions. If anyone had to live under constant judgment, it was him. and yet he knew you cannot live strong if you're enslaved by the opinions of others. Let me ask you, how much time do you waste every day calculating what other people think? How many times have you silenced a dream, held back an idea, or killed your own courage just because of what people might say? And the irony, those people may not even exist outside of your imagination. I remember speaking at a small seminar once. A man told me, "I hate public speaking. I always feel like everyone's waiting for me to screw up so they can laugh." I looked him in the eye and asked, "When you listen to someone else talk, do you sit there waiting for them to fail? Or are you too busy thinking about yourself?" He went quiet. And in that silence, he realized the fear never came from the audience. It came from the audience his mind invented. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop performing for an audience that doesn't exist, your natural charisma finally shows up. When you're no longer trapped in, "Am I impressive enough?" you start speaking with passion, acting with sincerity, living with pure energy. That's when people become genuinely drawn to you. Look at your own relationships. When you try too hard to perform, it feels exhausting, fake, shallow. But when you just relax into being yourself, no defense, no mask, nothing to prove, the connection becomes deeper, richer, unshakable. Because people don't need the performance version of you. They crave the real you. So what happens when you stop living for a fake audience? You start making choices based on your true values, not fleeting applause. You choose the job you love, not the one that just looks good. You speak your real opinions, not the ones that feel safe. You take risks. You make mistakes. You live fully because you're no longer chained by the fear of someone's imaginary gaze. Remember this. The audience doesn't exist. It only lives in your head. And the second you break free from that prison of imagined eyes, you step into real life. A life where confidence doesn't come from perfection, but from authenticity. So let me challenge you. If starting tomorrow you lived as if no one was watching, what would you do differently? Would you finally wear the clothes you love? Would you try that business idea you've been holding back? Would you say out loud what you've been silent about for years? Your answers to those questions are the keys to unlocking the most authentic, powerful version of yourself. Lesson 2. The mental prison has no walls. Have you ever felt trapped? Even when there were no bars around you, a prison with no walls, no guards. Yet somehow it holds you tighter than any real cell ever could. And here's the irony, the one who built that prison is you. We grow up surrounded by expectations and judgments, some real, many imagined. You rehearse a speech in your head a dozen times, terrified of mistakes. You replay an embarrassing moment from years ago, and it still stings, like it just happened. You make choices not because they're true to you, but because you fear what they might think. Brick by brick, fear by fear, thought by thought. You've built invisible walls around yourself. And so you live like a prisoner of imagined eyes, a prisoner of whispers that don't even exist. But stop for a moment. Ask yourself, is anyone really paying that much attention to every detail of your life? Reality check. People spend most of their time thinking about themselves, their worries, their dreams, their mistakes, their insecurities. There's no room left for them to sit there and score your every move. Seneca once said, Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, and your new beginning starts the moment you realize this prison never had walls. The walls were only in your mind. See that truth, and they vanish. Think about it. How much energy do you waste every day on pointless rehearsals? How many times do you torment yourself over an incident everyone else forgot? How many of your decisions come from the need to be accepted instead of the desire to grow? Add it all up, and you'll see you've burned an entire warehouse of energy, serving an audience that doesn't even exist. So what happens when you stop performing? When you finally accept that not everyone will like you, and that's perfectly okay. A new freedom opens up. A confidence not built on someone else's gaze, but on your own self-approval. Try this small exercise. Ask yourself, if nobody were keeping score, what would I do differently? Would you learn that new skill you've avoided because you were afraid of looking silly? Would you wear the outfit you love without worrying about the stares? Would you finally voice your real opinion, launch that dream project, or face that difficult conversation? The answer to that question, that's the real you, the authentic version of yourself hiding behind the daily performance. Here's the beautiful truth. When you step out of this invisible prison, you realize respect doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from living true to your own values. Happiness isn't a popularity contest. It's an inner state that belongs only to you. And the paradox becomes clear. The moment you stop chasing validation, you actually become more attractive. People aren't drawn to calculated perfection. They're drawn to natural authenticity. Just as sunflowers turn toward the sun, people naturally turn toward what's real. But let's be clear, this doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. The Stoics never dismissed the wisdom of others or the value of community. They simply knew the difference between learning from perspectives and living your life to please them. Your mental prison dissolves the moment you realize this. Most people are too busy wrestling with their own mistakes to sit in judgment of yours. And freedom comes not from others caring less about you, but from you caring less about whether they care. So right now, I want you to write this down. I am free from imaginary judgment. Because the moment you believe it, the walls collapse. And you step out no longer a prisoner, but a free, confident, and authentic human being. Lesson 3. Mistakes are not monuments. Be honest with me. Do you still remember an embarrassing moment from years ago? Maybe a clumsy comment in a meeting, a project that crashed, a decision you wish you could take back. And every time it comes to mind, your heart stings like the wound never healed. But here's the truth. Most people refuse to believe. Mistakes are not monuments. They're not giant blocks of stone standing forever to remind you of your failures. No, mistakes are stepping stones. And if you see them the right way, every mistake is a stair that lifts you higher. The problem: we exaggerate our own failures. We write them down, etch them deep, replay them over and over like a secret scorecard only we can see. But the irony is this: nobody else is keeping that score. Ask yourself, do you remember all the mistakes your friends made last year? Last month? Of course not. So why assume everyone else is wasting their memory on every slip you've ever made? Seneca, one of the great Stoics, was once exiled a massive political humiliation in his time. He could have wasted the rest of his life in shame, but he didn't. Instead, He used exile as fuel for creation. And in that season of disgrace, he wrote works that became timeless philosophy, inspiring millions for thousands of years. Failure didn't destroy him. Failure shaped him. Now ask yourself, what if you looked at your mistakes the same way? What if, instead of building monuments to shame, you turned them into silent teachers? Because mistakes teach what success never can. They teach resilience, how to fall and still rise. They teach compassion. Once you've been weak, you understand others better. They spark creativity. Failure forces you to find new paths. And most of all, they teach this: you can stumble and still move forward. When you stop treating mistakes as monuments, a door opens. You begin to try new things. You stop fearing risk because you know failure doesn't define you, it trains you. And you become more forgiving. When you stop crucifying yourself for mistakes, you naturally ease up on others. And that's when your relationships become more human, more honest, more lasting. I remember a friend once told me, "I want to start a business, but I'm scared of failing. I'm scared people will laugh when I fall." So I asked him, "Do you remember every person who failed before you? Or do you only remember the few who turned failure into success stories?" He smiled and went silent. Because the truth hit him. People don't remember your failures as long as you think. They remember what you did after the failure. So, if there's one affirmation you need to carry with you today, it's this: mistakes are my teachers, not my masters. Don't let old errors lock you in shame. Let them train you, sharpen you, grow you. Think about it. If tomorrow you walked forward without carrying the heavy monument of your past mistakes, what would you do differently? Would you finally try what you've been delaying? Would you dare to start again? Would you live a life no longer haunted by the ghosts of yesterday? The answer is already inside you, and it begins with this realization: mistakes are never permanent. Mistakes are only steps. Lesson 4. When the inner scorekeeper retires. Do you ever feel like there's a referee living in your head? A voice that never stops keeping score, counting every win, highlighting every failure, and it never misses a mistake. You trip over your words this morning. -1. Forgot to reply to that email. -5. See someone doing better than you. -10. This is the imaginary scorekeeper, a relentless judge inside your mind. And the worst part? You're the player, the audience, and the harshest referee all at once. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Every man is bound by a fear, and the greatest fear is failing to meet the standards we created in our own imagination." Think about that. Are you living under a scoreboard you never questioned? Who built it? Society, family? Or the most insecure version of yourself? When you let the inner referee call the shots, you stop living by your values. You live to collect points. You choose jobs that look impressive, not ones that light you up. You say what others want to hear, not what you truly believe. You compare your invisible scoreboard to everyone else's, and of course, you always lose. But here's the liberating truth. Nobody else is keeping score. No one's tracking your life points. They're too busy with their own game. And when you let that inner referee retire, you unlock a freedom you've never known. Picture this: a life where you no longer obsess over pluses and minuses. A life where decisions come from your core values, not imaginary tallies. Instead of asking, "Will this impress them?" you ask, Does this reflect who I want to become? That's the moment you stop performing and start living. When the inner referee retires, your relationships transform. You stop rehearsing every word before a conversation. You show up fully. You listen deeper. You answer honestly. People feel that authenticity, and the bond grows stronger, warmer, real. Even more powerful, you become resilient to praise and criticism. Without the scoreboard, compliments don't inflate your ego. Criticism doesn't crush you. Both simply become data lessons to learn from, not verdicts on your worth. Marcus Aurelius proved this. He ruled an empire under the constant gaze of millions. But he didn't keep journals to impress. He didn't write to earn applause. He wrote for himself, for discipline, for reflection, for truth. And those private words never scored, never graded, became his greatest legacy. So let me ask you, if tomorrow you officially let your inner referee retire, how would your life change? Would you finally chase the path that excites you, even if it doesn't score points with society? Would you speak your truth instead of the safe answer? Would you dare to live without tallying every plus and minus and focus only on becoming the truest version of yourself? Remember, life is not a game to win or lose. It's a journey to live, to grow, to be present. And you don't need a harsh referee in your head to prove that. So right now, tell yourself, I officially let my inner referee retire. From today forward, you're no longer chained to an imaginary scoreboard. You don't live to be graded. You live to be real. Lesson 5. The mirror that really matters. Every morning we look in a mirror. We check our hair, our clothes, our face. But there's another mirror we stare into even more often, sometimes dozens of times a day. The mirror of public opinion. We look for our reflection in other people's eyes, in their comments, in the likes and shares on social media. And we keep asking, what do people think of me? Am I good enough? Am I worthy of recognition? Here's the problem: that mirror is always distorted. It changes constantly. One day you're praised and you feel invincible. The next, a single insult sends you crashing down. You become a boat with no anchor, drifting with every wave of opinion around you. But listen, there's another mirror. The mirror that really matters. Not the gaze of the crowd, but the reflection of your own values, your conscience, your integrity. The outside mirror shifts endlessly. Praise today, criticism tomorrow, silence the next. But the inner mirror stays steady. It doesn't care how many followers you have. It only asks, did you live by your values today? Did you act with integrity? Are you better than you were yesterday? And here's the magic. When you start looking into the inner mirror, you find a strength no opinion can take away. You learn to self-approve instead of begging for approval. You learn to celebrate small progress without broadcasting it. You dare to face your strengths and weaknesses honestly instead of editing your image to hide the flaws. Seneca once said, "Fame and wealth can be lost, but character cannot." You can lose your job. You can lose your money. You can lose the applause of the crowd. But if you keep your character, if you stay true to yourself, you've lost nothing that truly matters. Think about it. How many times have you judged yourself only through someone else's reaction? How many times have you let one compliment lift you, or one look crush you? And what if tomorrow all those mirrors of opinion disappeared? No social media, no audience, Just silence. Would you still recognize yourself? That's the test. Do you dare look into the mirror that really matters, the one inside you, and accept what you see? Because when you do, everything changes. You stop living to please the crowd. You start living to honor yourself. You become steady grounded because your worth is no longer tied to the emotional weather of others. And here's the paradox. The moment you no longer crave recognition, you become more trustworthy, more magnetic. Marcus Aurelius proved this. In Meditations, he didn't write to impress. He didn't write for an audience. He wrote for himself, for his conscience, his inner mirror. And because of that honesty, those words still live today, thousands of years later. So ask yourself right now, which mirror is controlling my life? The mirror of opinion, or the mirror of my inner truth? And if the answer is opinion, it's time to turn around. Step in front of the mirror that really matters. Remember, you are not the image others paint of you. You are not their praise or their criticism. You are the honest reflection in your inner mirror where values, conscience, and integrity speak loudest. And when you finally learn to look there, you'll discover something extraordinary. You are enough. You are worthy. And you have always been yourself, no matter how loudly the world changes its mind. Lesson 6. Act within your control. Be honest, how many times have you woken up and your mind was instantly flooded with worry? Worried about what your coworkers might think. Worried if your project will get praise. Worried about things completely outside your control. Here's the truth. Most of the suffering in life comes from one simple mistake. We put our energy into what we cannot control. Stoic philosophy has a core principle called the dichotomy of control. Epictetus taught, some things are in our control, and some things are not. And real freedom begins when you learn to tell the difference. So think of it like this. What's in your control? Your thoughts, your choices, your effort. What's outside your control? The final outcome. Other people's reactions, praise, criticism, the problem. Most of us get it backwards. We obsess over perfect results and forget the step right in front of us. We chase recognition and forget that recognition is never ours to command. So here's a simple practice. Instead of asking, how do I get the perfect result? Ask, what's the next small step I can take? Instead of setting a goal of 1,000 likes, set a goal of write for 1 hour a day or finish 3 drafts. That's what you actually control. I've made this mistake myself. When I first started writing, I wasted hours thinking, will people like this? Will I get praise result? I didn't write anything at all. But when I shifted my focus from the outcome to the input, from recognition to practice, I finally started to grow. And here's the paradox. The moment I stopped craving praise, I started receiving more of it. Here's another powerful tool. Every morning, draw 2 columns. 1. Things I can control. 2 things I cannot control. Commit to act on the first column. Release the second. Watch how much lighter your mind feels. Picture this. When you send an email, you can control writing it clearly, kindly, on time. You cannot control the mood of the person who reads it. When you train, you can control your schedule, your discipline, your technique. You cannot control how fast your body responds. When you share an idea, you can control your preparation and delivery. You cannot control whether people cheer or criticize. And here's the breakthrough. When you accept this dichotomy, anxiety fades and agency rises. Praise and criticism lose their power because they're just data, not a verdict. You become steady because your value no longer sits in someone else's hands. It sits in your choices, your effort, your integrity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything outside your control, the pain is not from the thing itself, but from your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Simple words, but live by them and you unlock incredible strength. So let me ask you, if starting today you stopped trying to control outcomes, stopped chasing recognition, and only focused on what you truly command, how different would your life feel? Less anxiety, less frustration, more energy, more peace. So let's say it together: I focus on what I control. And every time your mind drifts to worries beyond your reach, repeat it again. It will bring you back to the present, to action, to the real power that's always been in your hands. Lesson 7. The freedom of selective caring. Have you ever felt drained simply because you cared too much? You cared about what your coworkers thought, about your neighbor's glance, about a stranger's comment online, about expectations you never even agreed to. The result: you're pulled in a dozen different directions. You lose energy, you lose focus, you lose yourself. The Stoics saw this truth long ago. You don't need to care about everything. You need to choose what's worth caring about. Don't get me wrong. Selective caring doesn't mean being cold or heartless. It means you care deeper, but only for what truly matters. Imagine this. You have $100. If you hand it out to 100 people each, one gets a single dollar. Too small to make a difference. But if you give it to the 5 most important people in your life, each gets 20. That has weight. That creates impact. Your care works the same way. Spread too thin, it loses power. Focused and selective, it becomes strong, meaningful, life-changing. So what deserves your deepest care? Your family, the people you truly love, your health, your growth, your dreams, the ones you've pushed aside because you were too busy chasing approval. And what do you need to release pointless gossip? Strangers' vague expectations, the fleeting dopamine of likes, and especially the guilt that comes from trying to please everyone. Think about it. You can respect everyone, but you don't have to value everyone's opinion. If you try, you'll end up manipulated by fear of rejection, by guilt, by the crushing need to meet impossible standards. And when that happens, you lose your freedom. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: care for virtue and justice. Don't waste your energy chasing approval. He was emperor of Rome, watched by millions. If anyone knew the weight of judgment, it was him. And yet he chose not to chase applause. He chose to focus on what mattered: living with integrity, serving with justice, staying true to his values. Now let me ask you, what are you caring about right now? How much of it truly deserves your energy, and how much of it is just noise draining you, distracting you, giving nothing back? Here's a simple practice. The next time you catch yourself worrying about someone's opinion, stop. Ask, is this person truly important to me? Do they know me, love me, invest in my growth? If the answer is no, you already know what to do. Let it go. Because here's the paradox. The less you try to please everyone, the more deeply you connect with the ones who truly matter. The more you focus your care, the more powerful your presence becomes. The world will always be noisy, always demanding your attention. But you don't have to answer every call. You only need to answer the ones that matter. So today, I want you to write down 2 lists. List 1, the people and things that truly matter. List 2, the things you know don't. Then make this commitment: I will give 100% of my care to list 1, and I will practice letting go of list 2. That is the freedom of selective caring. Not indifference, but depth, focus, strength. And from today forward, say this with me: I care deeply about what truly matters, and I release what doesn't. Lesson 8. The discipline of daily stillness. Have you noticed in today's world almost every moment of quiet has been stolen? The second you wake up, you grab your phone. Before you sleep, you tell yourself just 5 more minutes online, and somehow it turns into an hour. We're drowning in notifications, pings, endless screens. And worse, we're unconsciously chasing validation from the outside, instead of building strength on the inside. That's why Stoic philosophy and even modern psychology point to the same truth: build daily rituals of stillness, because only in silence can you hear your truest voice. So what does this discipline look like? It's not dramatic. It's small, steady practices that keep you anchored. Instead of diving into social media for approval, you return inward for balance. Start simple evening journaling. 3 lines a day. What I did right. What I need to improve. What I learned. No need to write essays. Just be honest. Just be consistent. Over time, this creates an inner mirror, a reflection of your real growth. No likes required. No comments needed. Next, try digital minimalism. Set boundaries. 1 hour after waking, 2 hours before sleep. No social media. Turn off push notifications. Don't let an app decide your mood. Give your mind space to breathe. Give your heart space to rest. You'll be shocked at how much less anxious, less distracted, less dependent you feel. Here's another ritual weekly values check. Sit down and ask, did my actions this week align with my core values? If yes, you're on the right path. If no, that's your signal to adjust. Simple, direct, powerful. These practices aren't flashy. You don't need to announce them to the world, but their quiet consistency makes you resilient. They strengthen your inner mirror so you see your progress clearly, not through someone else's eyes. Think of it like a gym for your soul. You can't build muscle with one workout. You need daily reps. Stillness is the same. Every journal entry, every hour offline, every values check. Each is a rep building your inner strength. And here's the paradox. When you nurture stillness, you no longer need to perform for the outside world. You stop proving yourself through other people's eyes because you're already enough when you look within. You stop racing to keep up with trends because you're steady on your own path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "True tranquility comes when you stop chasing what you cannot control." And he was right. In stillness, you find strength. In stillness, you return home to yourself. So ask yourself today, how much room am I giving to silence in my life? If the answer is not much, start small. A notebook, a pen, a few minutes with your phone off. That's all it takes to begin. And remember, this stillness doesn't mean escape. Stillness is fuel. Stillness is power. Stillness is the root that keeps you grounded when life's storms rage. Lesson 9. The art of invisible impact. There's a strange paradox in life. The moment you stop craving to be seen is the moment you truly create impact. Today, everyone wants to impress. We post to be noticed. We work to be recognized. We speak to be applauded. But pause for a second. Look back at history. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, wrote, "Meditation's not for the world, not for fame." He wrote it for himself, to reflect, to train his soul. And yet those private words became one of the greatest works of philosophy. They've inspired millions for thousands of years. That is the power of invisible impact. Impact that doesn't come from performance. It comes from authenticity. Think of Seneca. He wrote simple letters to his friend Lucilius, sharing wisdom, offering comfort, giving advice. He never imagined those letters would outlast empires. But they did. Why? Because they were real, intimate, honest, unpolished. Invisible impact isn't in the spotlight. It's in the small, unseen moments. How you treat a server when you're in a rush. How you stay calm when criticized. How you tell the truth even when no one is watching. Those hidden choices create ripples that spread farther than you know. And here's the beauty: invisible impact lasts longer than any performance. Because performance burns you out. You can't wear the mask forever. But authenticity feeds you. You can live it for a lifetime. I remember a friend once asked me, "How do I become more inspiring?" I smiled and said, "Don't try to inspire. Just be real. Inspiration will take care of itself." Because people are wired to move toward authenticity. Like flowers turn to the sun, we're drawn to those who live true. So ask yourself, are you living to impress or living to be real? Are you chasing the big moment while ignoring the quiet power of small, honest acts? Here's the truth. You don't need an audience to have influence. Every day, you're already shaping lives through the way you live, the way you love, the way you stay true to your values. And often that impact is stronger than any speech. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best thing a man can do is to be himself." He didn't chase approval. He didn't keep score. And yet his authenticity made him a timeless symbol of wisdom and strength. So, if you're exhausted from performing, remember this. True power comes from being real. When you stop trying to look impressive, you become inspiring. When you stop trying to look amazing, you become extraordinary. Look closely at your small choices today. Remember, each one, even the unseen ones, shapes the legacy you leave behind. And now, I want you to affirm this with me. Authenticity is my impact. Because when you live true, you don't just free yourself. You plant seeds of change in the hearts of everyone around you. Think back to where this journey began. How many years have you lived under the weight of imagined expectations? How long have you been performing for an audience that never really existed, convinced they were watching, judging, scoring every step you took? And how exhausted have you become, living by someone else's script instead of your own story? Then one day, you saw the truth. No one cares as much as you thought. No one keeps a permanent record of your failures. No one stays up at night judging every choice you make. They're too busy with their own lives. And the moment you realized that, a door opened. The door to freedom. From that moment, everything changed. You learned to choose what's worth caring about. Instead of scattering your energy chasing strangers' approval, you poured it into family, friends, health, growth, and dreams. You broke free from the prison of past mistakes, no longer building monuments to shame. You retired the inner referee, no longer living to keep score in a game that never existed. You let go of the imaginary audience and stepped into real life. And the result? You found inner peace. You built relationships that are genuine, not performances. And you began to create a kind of influence that lasts not through showmanship, but through authenticity. This is the timeless truth the Stoics left us. Your value does not come from applause. Your character is not defined by praise or criticism. Your peace does not depend on universal approval. Epictetus lived it. Marcus Aurelius wrote it. Seneca proved it with his life. And now, it's your turn. Remember this: life is not a performance. Life is a real, unfiltered experience. You don't need a stage. You don't need an audience. You only need the courage to be who you truly are. So right now, I want you to say it. Not for me, not for anyone else, but for yourself. I am free to be myself. Say it. Write it. Believe it. Because once you believe it, you will start living it. And if this message has reached you, I invite you to act. Don't just listen and move on. Share this video with a friend, someone you know who's tired of living for an imaginary audience. Let them find this same freedom. Let this message spread. And finally, leave a declaration in the comments for yourself. I no longer perform. I live real. I am free to be myself. This is not just the end of a video. This could be the beginning of an entirely new life.